Somebody stop me. Is that what he says?
I wish I could stop this movie, this train wreck, this godforsaken, hot, steamy pile of trash from ever happening, but I can't. It happened. It happened in 2005, and we can't go back and stop it. We can't undo it. That's all I got to say.
Now it's garbage.
Just another movie night.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. We are Just Another Movie Night, and I am Scott.
I'm Joe.
You are Joe, and this is Talking Trash.
Talking trash.
Talking Trash, Valentine's Day edition, February edition, where we are giving our love to the people we've met online who have actually given us suggestions of the bad movies to do.
Okay, who suggested this?
Basically, it's not love from them. It's not even love to them from us. It's them torturing us and us loving movies enough to watch the shit that they've suggested.
Yes, and we appreciate all the suggestions, everybody.
Yeah,
so keep them coming.
And here's the thing, like, when someone can suggest something that we haven't seen, then we're going to do it because it's shocking to us when we find movies we haven't seen.
That's true, but I did know of this one.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to know of this one.
Exactly. That's why only reason we ever watched this is because we were told to do it.
Yeah.
And when, let's say for every 10 suggestions we've gotten, one is one we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a bad ratio going on here. So it's really rare. But yeah, this one was suggested by Movies Rating and Ranking on Instagram.
Shout out to them.
Yep. He suggested 3 films. We picked one of them. You were actually afraid of the other one. Well, we're going to eventually get to it. And 3 movies I had never seen, which I was shocked. But
Nice.
Today we are discussing a torturous event from 2005 called The Son of the Mask. This was directed by Lawrence Gutterman. Perfect name.
Oh, God.
The director of Cats and Dogs.
Oh.
So we can kind of see where the CGI nightmare began and
okay.
ended. Because he virtually didn't go on to do much else after this. He did an episode of a television show here and there, and that was about it. This has a 2.3 on IMDb out of 59,000 reviewers.
Oh, yikes.
This has a 20 on Metacritic. This is a movie that critic Richard Roper, who famously took over on Roger and Ebert, he took over. He said, out of the 5 years of doing that show, this was the movie he wished he walked out of. So now my question to you, Joe, is how much money did this movie cost?
Oh, my God. Okay. To make this movie, I believe that it probably cost around, I'm going to say at least $2 million, because
You thought this movie cost $2 million?
yes, because it's like heavily CG'd. Heavily. Whether it's good
that's
or
expensive.
not CG, yes. Whether it's good or not.
Just for a
it's-
few frames of that for CG is probably $2 million. Just for a few frames.
Don't tell me that this movie cost $10 million to make or something. Please.
Keep going. In fact, your first guess was how much Jamie Kennedy made.
No.
So, do you want to keep guessing?
All right, I'll say 15 mil.
Do you want to keep guessing?
20 mil?
You want to keep guessing?
25 mil.
Do you want to keep guessing?
Shut up. 50 mil?
Do you want to keep guessing?
Okay, I'm out. I can't do this.
Well, I don't think you know your movies well enough to the first few suggestions were what the Toxic Avenger movies cost to make.
They didn't have any budget.
They had $2 million
They had
on Toxic Avenger
2.5
2.
million on just one
And that's
of
what your
them.
first suggestion of a big blockbuster movie was. That was a sequel to a
Okay.
hit film.
This was a blockbuster. This should have been straight to DVD.
This was a sequel to a huge hit movie starring Jim Carrey.
All right. I'm gonna say 75 mil.
This cost $100 million to make. Now, how much do you think it made?
$27.
Apparently, you do not agree with my theories.
I guess I should say it again.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep guessing?
No. Okay. I'm being
want-
an
I mean,
asshole.
do you want to keep guessing?
All right. Okay. I'm gonna say that this movie, because it has the mask on it, people probably thought they were gonna see Jim Carrey pop in there somewhere, right? So they probably
That might have been true. I don't
made
know
the
about
journey to the movies just to see maybe he'll pop in. Okay, so if this movie cost $100 million to make, I'm gonna say that this movie actually made. All right, I'll say it made $300 million worldwide.
that. So you think it was a success?
Well, yeah, you're telling me that it's a sequel to a big blockbuster movie.
Yeah, that's why it cost
So-
$100 million.
Right, so I would say that people went to see it.
No way.
You're
I mean,
fucking me. You're fucking with me.
$300 million is what like a Marvel movie makes.
Okay, you're teasing me right now because you're telling me, like, you're totally telling me that this movie made $100 million.
No, it cost $100
I mean,
million.
it cost $100 million. Excuse
And
me.
it's close. It's very sketchy. It's 89 to 100 million, and it's probably 100 more. It's probably more than
Okay.
100.
You're telling me it cost that much to make, but it wasn't
It was
much
a
of a
huge
success.
failure. Yeah,
And it wasn't a huge failure.
it was a huge failure
It
because,
was.
as you saw, it's got a 2 and a 20 on Metacritic. That means, and one of the most famous critics said he wish he would have walked out.
Okay. Well, still, there are still people in the seats, obviously. So I'll say that this movie made, okay, if it's bad, 30 million. Made 30 million.
Okay, I mean, it made double that. It made 59 million, almost 60 million. So, to me, this could have been worse. Making 60 million, almost 60 million back is still a loss. It's still a huge loss. You want to make 150. You know, you want to try to get your money back and whatever. At least they made that, because we've seen a lot of movies on the show who have not made even close to 60 million back on these. But we just did Artemis Fowl last week, which made no money back. So, I mean, that was that's to me is a disaster. That cost like $125 million, and it made no money back because it had to get dumped on streaming. And nobody wanted, and Disney had to sell it off to try to get profit. So that's to me is a bomb. At least 60 million plus on the back end. I think they sold the rights of streaming of video cassettes and everything to a company for 20 million. So at the end of the day, I think it didn't do as bad as a lot of other films do.
Okay. Well, it didn't make its money back, so that's...
No, it really didn't, but it made about 80 maybe.
All right. Well, I feel like comparing this to Artemis Fowl, it's like, okay, they had a film that cost 125 million to make, but they also had a bigger cast. Like, you know, like a bigger like group of people that they had to pay.
That's true.
You know?
That's true that they had people to lure you in, maybe.
Yeah.
And there's also, like, Artemis Fowl was based off a big book. And the reason that Artemis Fowl didn't make money is because of COVID. So they have a lot of strikes in their favor of why it was such a disaster.
It was really
the
bad
movie
timing.
wasn't good as well, and people that love the books hated it. But here we are with a sequel to a movie that people grew up with loving, and we're talking 11 years later. That movie came out in 94 when Jim Carrey was on a roll. I mean, he made 3 of his biggest movies that year. Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask, all in one year. This movie was in another film in development hell, because what happened was they were trying to make a sequel for the longest time, and the problem is Jim Carrey made Ace Ventura 2 and hated it. He had a nightmare on the set. He didn't like doing it. He said to himself he learned the lesson from doing it. He didn't want to do sequels.
Yeah, I heard that he didn't want to do sequels, but then he did Dumb and Dumber
Well, that
Dumb
was
and
actually
Dumber
years
or
later. They
something.
actually asked him to do the sequel to that one. And if you remember, the sequel recasted younger people. But the original joke was that they were supposed to play them young. And that would have been funny to see both Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey pretending to be younger. And that's when I believe Trey Parker was involved in that. I think that they were talking about how they thought that would have been funny. And it would have been. And that actually would have been a really funny concept. And then he said no. And after Ace Ventura, he didn't want to do Dumb and Dumber. And then they did it years later because they wanted to work together again. And they just said, screw it, let's make it. And it turned out to be a bomb. So he probably was better off. But this movie definitely could have had help from having Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz come back. But since Jim Carrey said no, the director of the original movie also said no and quit. And then this movie lingered in development hell for 11 years. Well, less, until it finally got made and was starting to be made in 2003. I think they were working on special effects. Then it finally got released in 2005. But the problem is they hired somebody who I don't know was ever successful enough to get this lead role.
I agree with that. I mean, he was didn't he's done Scream.
Yeah, he did Scream. He had his own Jamie Kennedy experience in the early 2000s. That whole show where he was doing all of his characters, which is really odd because when he was being asked to be in this movie, he thought he would be Loki. And I think that would have made more sense because it would have allowed him to go nuts with his characters. Instead, he had to play the straight man. Now, when he was asked, why did you take this movie? He said, I have 2.5 million reasons that I took that movie. So that's suggesting that it was that much money. And now let me ask you a question. Who do you think they went to first after Jim Carrey said no? Who passed on this movie?
Oh, every other comedian?
Yeah, I have two names for you. This is great. Jack Black, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, thank God.
Could you imagine?
Thank God they passed on this.
Yeah. And he was like the last choice. And it's odd because the only real stars are Alan Cummings, who people might know is more of a theater actor, and Bob Hoskins, who didn't even know he was going to be in the film. He thought he was just doing a voiceover. Then he was told, no, you got to put makeup on and do this whole thing. So he wasn't happy, but that's his long career of not understanding what he's signing on to do. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, but hanging this movie on Jamie Kennedy seemed like a real big gamble that wasn't really thought out.
I mean, I feel kind of bad for him because this is like a career-ending movie. It is. The way the acting in this, and he just didn't come across as the family man that he was supposed to be.
No, not at all.
Nothing
In fact,
that he was supposed to be. He just didn't bring it.
him and the actress, and I'm sorry, I gotta say her name real fast. Taylor,
Her name is Trailer.
Trailer. Terrible. Trailer Howard, who was most known for being in the show Monk. Her and Jamie Kennedy's, I would say that their chemistry is brother and sister level in this film.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now, I have so many thoughts to talk about with this movie. So many, there's a lot to talk about why this thing doesn't work and why. I have a lot of little ideas. Now, this movie was based off a comic series. This is a Dark Horse comic book that was extremely gritty. Jim Carrey kind of turned it into more of a cartoon. Now, I don't even think that the original Mask is that great. It's fun. It's okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
It has things about it that stick out. Now, if this movie was the same characters, if they had just recasted the same characters and this is them trying to live in suburbia having a child, maybe this would have made more sense and we didn't have to set them up all over again. Maybe that would have been a little something more if they hired some people who were more like those two characters. Especially since Cameron Diaz's character in that movie has like she's rich and she expects bigger things, and then she's like, maybe I've been looking in the wrong area all this long, and all along, and she went with the dorky guy who is probably going to love her and they were going to have a good relationship, and that might have been interesting. But having those two characters trying to make a relationship work in like suburbia might have actually been a funny concept
Yeah.
because they try hard on doing that while having the same character, like characters who feel similar in some way. Like, Jamie Kennedy is dorky and his wife is successful and, and pretty. I mean, they seem like they're trying to, and then to make it worse, they have a dog, which is exactly what Jim Carrey's best friend was his dog.
That's what I asked you. I was like, I feel like the dog's name was
It was Milo.
Otis in the last one. It wasn't.
No, it was Milo, and they named this one Otis as Milo and Otis.
Get it? Yeah.
There's a lot of like little jokes that they tried to do here, and I completely get it. And I think they might have been onto something that could have been a lot more fun if they just figured things out a little more. This is one of those movies that they had a bigger concept, but bringing it to the screen just did not work. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the effects and stuff like that. It's fascinating. The whole damn movie is fascinating because the creators of the comic book, right? It's Mike Richardson, Doug Mankey, and John Arcudu. Arcudu, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. They worked on the comic, and the one creator, he made the comic up and kind of pitched it to Dark Horse. And he was like the running publisher, head of the publishing. Came up with the idea, but then these other two guys came along and kind of made it a success. But the comic was never big, and it was extremely gritty and violent. So making it into this, and that's something we see a lot with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Also gritty comic book, very dark. They kill people. Then they did this really big cartoon. The Mask did the same kind of thing. But the problem is that concept, what they based it around. They're like, what if we took Norse mythology and Loki's mask and like had this whole thing and mixed it in with Tex Avery cartoons? Mm-hmm. And we'll have the Mask. It'll be insane. What if Tex Avery, sorry, I'm whistling out of my teeth, I think. What if Tex Avery had the powers of a god as disposal? That's a cool concept. And this movie's like, hey, let's go with that a little more. Let's have the main character of this film be a comic book creator or wanting to be an artist of cartoons. And let's even have his name be Avery, right? So it's Tex Avery. And they're like, oh, we're going to do all these references to the original source material. And by doing that, we can have the animation and the stuff go lunatic and completely go Tex Avery cartoons. To me, that might have worked, but in 2005, how many kids were laughing at Tex Avery cartoons?
None.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of it that worked in the 90s with Jim Carrey doing it,
Yeah.
but seeing Jamie Kennedy, okay, because on the show, I didn't even say the whole thing, what the show is. We talk out the show. We rip it up. We talk about the movies that nobody... We
talk out the movies.
Yeah, we talk out the movies that nobody really wants to talk about, or, the movies that people either hate or forgot about or just completely think is just like mediocre. And we try to talk those movies out and see if we like them by asking the question, is this the worst movie ever made? And if not, what is? So by doing that, we're going to spoil the whole plot. Because most of the time, we don't think you should see this. And I think plenty of people have seen this, and the rest of the people who haven't don't want to see this.
True.
So here we are doing it.
Yeah, well, we're doing this because it was recommended to us. But we did have this movie on our radar. We know about this movie. I just never wanted to watch it because I myself am not a huge Jamie Kennedy fan. I think that he's kind of a goober, and I'm just not like into his... after this movie, he made Kicking It Old School and a bunch of trash.
Was that before or after
No, it was
this?
after this.
Wow, I cannot believe he was still
he
getting
was
the
making
chance.
crap,
Yeah.
He was making crap. He did some made for sci-fi movie after this. I mean, when I tell you, I feel like this movie was a career-ending thing that he made. It was a bad decision. I really believe that because I feel bad for him. But
What comedian in the beginning of his career not becoming a huge thing wouldn't take a main movie for $2 million? Who wouldn't take that?
I mean, I guess you're right. It's a nice paycheck, but after reading a script like this and like knowing that the CG is going to be freaking awful. I'm sure he didn't really know.
He didn't know,
but
and he had a lot of things to say about this later on. He actually made a documentary based around the making of this thing.
Oh wow, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, he did a whole essay, like kind of video on YouTube, just talking about what happened behind the scenes and how 34 minutes of this movie were cut, saying that what ended up happening was like a clusterfuck of CGI and just ADHD. He said it's the movie cut out all the scenes that give it weight. Mm-hmm. So everything just comes off insane and too quick, and you can see that on screen.
Yeah. God, I don't know. I mean, I guess he couldn't have really known what it was going to be, like a critical failure. You never really know until it's, the finished
Until you're
product.
sitting in that theater.
Yeah,
on
the finished
opening
product
night.
is out, and yeah.
Well, let's talk about the plot.
Talk about the plot.
This movie starts off in, like, and this is funny because this is the only character to cross over between the two movies, Ben Stein. This movie, for some reason, feels like it's a good idea to hire the most dry comedians of all time. Not only do we have Ben Stein, who some people might not know, so I'll say he is the teacher in Ferris Bueller. He had his own television show. It was like a game show that actually made Jimmy Kimmel famous. He was a very, very dry. He was actually a speechwriter for Nixon. This is a guy who's never really was an actor or a comedian. It just happened for him.
Well, I guess that's one way of putting it. Anyway.
And he is so dry. But to double down, we also get Stephen Wright, one of the most dry comedians of all time. He's a stand-up who's known for just talking slow and being like a wet towel. That's his whole shtick. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of where people might know him from. On Half-Baked, he's famously the guy who's sleeping on Dave Chappelle's couch.
Hey, what day is it?
Saturday.
Is it January?
No, man, it's August.
Oh, wow. August.
He is actually very funny. But this movie's like peppering the movie with these lame, just like doing that with the sour notes.
Yeah.
So everything else feels so like out of balance. But this movie starts off, Ben Stein was actually in The First Mask. So he's back again. And what's odd is he is a museum curator. He is talking about what's going on in the plot. Virtually just trash talking Loki, the god of mischief. Well, the funny thing is that Ben Stein is just trash talking this Loki. He's just like shitting on him any way he can. He's just like garbage dumping this guy.
Could shapeshift, change his form, even turn himself into a woman.
A woman? Man alive, lock up your sons and daughters around that twisted piece of fruitcake, hey, Doc?
Anyway, Loki brought nothing but shame to Odin and his ilk. In fact, Loki was such an unruly child that Odin ultimately locked him up in chains far beneath the earth.
And of course, he's standing right there. And he wants the mask that's behind the case. And Ben Stein says none of this is real. Like the mask isn't real. It's just some made up thing.
Just a prop.
It's a story. It's been handed down for generations and all that. And which is odd because in the first movie, it should be widely publicized that a man was like fighting the mob as a masked creature.
I mean, I feel like this was. How did they not capture this like on the news? Like, how is this not a thing? I mean, there's like a green guy like tornadoing around the city.
Yeah, a green mask in like a yellow suit.
In a yellow zoot suit, and then he dances with Cameron Diaz. It
had to be known. It has to be widely known that happened.
Yeah, like I don't know. It seems like nobody knows, so they just act like that movie didn't happen.
Yeah, well, this movie actually starts in Edge City, which is where the first movie took place. And at the end of that movie, he threw the mask out into the ocean and ended up with Cameron Diaz, while his friend and his dog jumped in the water to fight over it. What's odd here is that we see that Loki is searching for the mask, and he tortures Ben Stein by cutting off his face and putting his face in a glass case, which you think also would be all over the news that Ben Stein's face was removed.
I mean, people were running and screaming when this was happening in the museum.
Yeah.
And they saw all of this going on, that there was some crazy green, like masked lunatic with sorcery
Yes.
coming out of him.
People take that pretty okay in this movie.
Yeah, but then, when things started shattering and stuff, then they started running and screaming because they got scared.
Yeah.
So I get it. And then he like made his hands into like little guns and stuff, like he was firing on. It was just so cartoony. It was like Roger Rabbit, when they do all that stuff. So people are running and screaming out of the museum. And I was going to motion to you, but I just forgot about it because I don't think I cared at that moment. But I was going to say, did Ben Stein ever get his face back?
No, we never find out about what happened here.
Like his face was in the case, in the glass case, and like his body was still walking around, and he was trying to guide his body back to his face. I was like, oh my God.
Can I say something that might be controversial?
Sure.
I thought this scene was kind of funny.
Okay.
I thought Ben Stein was kind of funny because he's taking it pretty well, and the joke is that he's just like, oh, my face. And he's like, his face is flying off. He's like, I'm claustrophobic, by the way. He's saying all this stuff. He had just had his face removed, and he's taking it pretty funny. And I thought, okay,
yeah,
this is dry. I can see that this is kind of funny. Like, this is not that bad. And the movie starts from here, and I was like, maybe there's going to be something funny here. Maybe there's going to be a little, because I think when I'm going into a movie like this, when I've already heard that it's like one of the worst movies ever made, I'm expecting dreadful stuff, especially since we do this all the time. We watch bad movies all the time. I think I'm expecting the worst.
Well, I'm not going to lie, I was
watching it and I was like, all right, I got a giggle already in the opening. And I'm seeing Alan Cumming, who, like I said before, he's from Broadway and stuff like that, but he's done a lot of movies, and he
was
famously was a
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler in X2. Unfortunately, didn't get more of that character, which is a shame.
He was a very endearing character in X2.
He played it great, and I like him. He brings energy to the screen. There's something about him. He just brings a likability, and it also seems like he is enjoying his job regardless of what material he's doing.
That's true.
And I don't know what it is about him. I've always been shocked that he's not bigger, but I'm sure that it's probably because he maybe comes off like a jerk in real life, and who knows? I don't know. But I automatically saw him and Ben Stein, and I was like, okay, if this is like a sign of things to come, I've seen worse so far. And now, what happens is we cut away because Loki's like, this isn't the real mask. The one in the museum is actually made. I think that there's a running joke where he keeps finding masks that were made in other countries, just props. And Ben Stein's like, it's a prop. Well, we see the real mask has now been flushed out of the ocean or wherever the hell he threw the mask, and it is now falling down into the next neighboring city, which is Fringe City, and it is washing upon a stream. Of course, the dog in the movie, who's almost identical to the dog in the first one.
Yeah, I said that too. I was like, this is so crazy. Why do they have to do that? They can't even get a different dog.
Yeah,
Come
it's
on.
kind of strange. And I will say the dog is great.
I mean, he is. He's cute.
The dog is actually likable. There's some stuff with the dog that's actually kind of fun. Well, the dog finds the mask and, of course, picks it up. For some reason, him biting the mask isn't making it stuck onto his face. That's confusing.
Yeah, I was going to... When I told you I had questions, I was like, okay, this dog is able to pick up the mask.
With his teeth, it should already be sucking onto his face, because that's what the mask famously does. If it gets close to your face, it jumps onto it, like a face hugger.
Yeah.
Well, now, I will say, what's odd here is that the mask works at any time of day. In the original, it only works at night.
Is that right?
Yeah, Jim Carrey couldn't get it to work during the day, but when they tried to put it on at night, he'd become the mask. It was like that joke about how Batman during the day is Bruce Wayne, but at night he's Batman. So it's kind of like a joke about how at night you become someone else. In this movie, it doesn't matter. They're throwing out the mythology already.
Yeah, because it seems like everything changes
Yeah.
this time.
And what we find out now, for some reason, that never happened in the original, is that Odin is asking... Odin, by the way, is Bob Hoskins from Roger Rabbit, and what we've already done on the show, the Mario Brothers, playing Mario. And Bob Hoskins here is playing Odin. He is so dressed up, and he is hamming it up like a mother, and he is going nuts. And I guess what's going on is he's telling Loki that he needs to go find this mask. That he has lost the mask, and he needs to go find it. And Loki's supposedly banished from Asgard, and he's looking for the mask. But I guess he's been screwing around for God knows how long while being banished, because in the first movie he never interacted, and neither did Odin.
Right.
So here he's on a quest to find it. But of course it washed up on a stream. The dog finds it and brings it to his family. Now this is where we meet our new family, our main characters. And that's Jamie Kennedy, who's playing the husband in this relationship, and is his wife, who are with another couple, seeing that they have 5 hideous children. And they have just had a new baby, and these children already are the epitome of like wanting to never have a baby.
Okay, let me just clarify what you just said. Okay, first of all, they're not hideous because they're ugly children.
They're hideous
They're
on every
just-
account.
they're-
Actually, one of them is in his underwear with sunglasses on, and he's punching Jamie Kennedy in the nuts.
They're just really bad children.
Yeah. I'm not saying that because they're redheads, because I am a redhead myself, okay? So
Nothing to do with being a redhead. You're a beautiful ginger, and everyone loves you.
I think they purposely picked ginger kids to make it look worse.
They weren't all gingers,
I'm
but I
just
will
saying-
say that it looked like a nightmare scenario.
They
where
were a
like
nightmare.
this couple just kept on popping them out one after the other, and you could just tell there was no like sense of like self anymore.
Yeah. So this is where we automatically learn what we're in for. The movie's going to be about a husband and wife who the wife wants to have a child, and the husband doesn't want to grow up and doesn't know how to, or doesn't believe in himself enough to have a child. You know what I mean? That you've seen the story so many times.
Okay.
Except here it's the mask.
But here's the thing. I mean, he even explains it in the movie that he wants to be able to accomplish something.
I think he's copping out. I think that he truly doesn't want to have children, because this entire opening set piece with him is just him being completely oblivious to his relationship. Mm-hmm. It seems like they want to have 2 ways to go with this, because later on you kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think the opening of this movie is suggesting that he was just saying that to shut her up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. This is one of those movies that like there's only one scenario. The couple can only have a child, and if they don't, they're not a normal couple and they can't be in love. Mm-hmm. That's the movie.
Yeah, well,
Seen it before.
we can't stand that shit anyway, because as a childless couple, we are pretty happy with our life. And, you know, we don't live that situation where, like, they just, you know, the woman is pushing for a kid and the guy is just like,
Yeah.
We don't deal with that shit.
It's this whole idea that in movies that women must have children and they can't be in a relationship unless they can have that.
No, it's the 30-year-old rule. That's what I call it. The 30-year-old rule. Soon as a woman hits 30, they start having a freaking nervous breakdown. Oh my God, I need to get married. Oh my God, I need to have kids. I need to have a house. I need to have this. And it's just like it's almost like a crisis. It's
Yeah.
a crisis. And I've known many women that have gone through that.
That's definitely a thing. And there's also a thing of guys who want kids. Like, there's this idea that doesn't exist, but it does. We know plenty of men.
We know plenty of men who want children.
And so that it can be both ways, but there is a thing with movies that has to portray women and men in certain lights.
Yeah.
And I would
annoying.
say it's a cliche. It's a writing cliche, and it's lazy. Mm-hmm. And here we are going into the lazy situation. And the way that they portray the man is also another lazy cliche, where he doesn't pay attention, he's completely cut off, and he's playing a Nintendo DS. Mm-hmm. Right? And he's in the car playing it like he's the child. And I'm like, here we go. There's no possibility for a person or a man or a woman to enjoy any kind of other, activities, unless they're trying to portray one as a nerd. You know what I mean? And so that's what this movie's doing. They're heavily implying that he's just a nerd idiot and that he just can't be a man at all. He can't take care of them. He can't do anything. And it's like,
Which is weird because they really
cliche.
do have a pretty nice house with, pretty nice decor, and
well,
it's
the other end of that spectrum is that the woman is very successful.
and
so
what
at
though?
least
We
that's
don't. What does she do?
she is the head of some company.
Okay, they're always ahead of some company.
Yeah.
Like it's like, all right. No,
She's the regional manager for some kind of business. They mention it, could hardly remember it. It's just kind of like a throw it away line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's telling him like, child has to happen. Now, what's really funny about this couple is that he says he doesn't want a child, and she does, and that he can't get on board with it. But when they get home, we see that they do have a child. They have a dog who they treat like a child. This dog has its own bunk bed room.
he literally has his own bedroom, and this is like, okay, we're talking with a dog house inside the room with bunk beds and toys everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
and
he
it's
literally
all decked out in bone wallpaper.
Yes. I was like, okay, you're kidding. I don't know what's worse, okay? I just don't know what's worse. Dog owners that act like that and like make their dog like their kid where like they're dressing them up in clothing and taking them out in their little strollers to the mall and shit. Or, people or women who want a baby.
Yeah, I mean
That bad.
it goes hand in hand, right? I mean,
Like,
it
I feel
really
like
does
I'm
at the end of the day.
taking crazy pills. Like it's outrageous. Like really? This fucking dog has a bigger bedroom than I do. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
This is
I know.
stupid. I just can't. Like, what are you feeding this animal? He's gonna eat some freaking tofu and some, caviar and sip some wine.
I found it fascinating
He's a
that
dog.
they would go with this because I'm like, you just established that they don't have time for a child, and this man doesn't want to have a child while taking care of a dog.
Yes, but who built this fucking
That's
room?
what I'm saying. He went this far for this dog.
Yeah.
It's his best friend. We
So-
established that throughout the movie. So I'm like,
Yes.
if he's going this and he's all about his job and what he does for what he wants to do and his dream job, then this dog would also be a kind of a problem for him.
Yeah, but it seems like he made time to do all that.
That's my
with
point.
Painting the doghouse and painting the room
So-
and doing all this shit.
That's the confusion here. That's like if Seth Rogen's character in Knocked Up had a dog and treated it like a child. No, that goes against it. He's too lazy. He's too spoiled. He doesn't want to go out of his way and do other things. Like you get that.
Yeah.
And so that's funny. Having this happen doesn't really make sense to it.
No, it doesn't at all.
Maybe if they weren't able to have a child and that was a strain in a relationship because they were not able to have a child, that maybe this would have made more sense.
I agree.
And maybe they're talking about other ways to do it, and then it just happens, and that's the chaos that comes from it. Instead, the movie's like, no, we have to go with this, but we also need a dog because the first one had a dog. It's very odd, and also the comic book had a dog, so we have to go with this stuff. Mm-hmm. So he basically would just watch him being spoiled with the dog, and the dog being great, and him and the dog actually kind of cute. It's not that awful. It's not.
The dog's not a scene stealer until later on.
I guess. I mean, it's just this scene made us smile. Like, look at this dog has his own room, and he's like living pretty large.
Yeah.
But the problem is the dog has brought him the mask. Now, it just so happens that what he does for a living, well, his dream is to be a cartoonist because he is basically Tex Avery. He is Avery. So he wants to create a cartoon series. He's been working on his whole life, but he works at a animation place. I guess it's supposed to be like Pixar.
I don't know, but there's a lot of people working there.
Yeah, and they all work for Jeffrey Wright, who's the head artist. Like, I guess he created a bunch of stuff. They all look like they're working at Pixar, that idealistic Pixar where everybody's dressed in colorful clothes. And the movie also can't make sense of what it is because all the houses are cartoony. This is almost like Barbie recently, where everything's like pastels and weird colors and vibrant and very, very unique. Like their house is gigantic, multiple rooms, which is weird for later on. And it is huge living rooms and big doorways. It just seems cartoon, you know?
Yeah.
Like going out of its way to be cartoonish.
Yeah. It was over the top for sure.
Yeah.
But the dog.
Well, it just so happened. What I wanted to say real fast is that it just so happens that it's Halloween. Now we see that at his job, this Avery guy, Jamie Kennedy.
His name is Tim.
Tim.
Yeah.
Instead of Tex Avery. Tim
Yeah.
Avery. He is actually a mascot. I guess one of their big cartoons is a turtle. So he dresses up as a turtle.
You know, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
He was wearing that costume.
He is a turtle mascot who gives tours around the company. He doesn't even animate for the company, although he has an animation degree and he's a good animator. And his best friend, now this is funny, is Cal Penn, which was kind of surprising to see Cal Penn
but he
be
brings
popping up in this
nothing
movie.
to the table. Nothing.
Who does some kind of work as a mocap. He does mocap work for them,
Yeah.
which is really odd for this company that does animation. I thought that was a little strange, but we basically hear about how he should go talk to the boss and get his foot in the door, and Cal Penn talks him into that, and he tries, and the boss isn't actually not. You think he's gonna be a jerk. There is also a guy who works with him who's supposed to be a jerk, and this is going to have that other dynamic that's a cliche in all these movies, that he works with the one asshole that's trying to take his job.
Oh, yeah.
That's here, but it never comes in. It doesn't mean a fucking thing. They mention him, they say his name a lot, they never do anything with that.
Nope.
And his boss is kind of like, look, I don't like your idea, but my door's always open to hear your pitches, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Not a bad boss.
Yeah, it's like they had the cliche of the dickhead, you know, coworker that's probably vying for, you know, top guy in the firm or whatever. But this boss is not at all like what you would expect immediately. Like,
No.
I thought he was going to be like dismissive and be like, you know, no, fuck off. I'm not interested in anything you have to say. Like one of those kind of people. No,
Not at all.
he was cool.
Yeah, and so it just so happens that there's a Halloween party. And it just so happens that the dog found the mask. And so, of course, Jamie Kennedy can't find a mask for his costume to go to the Halloween costume thing. Now, he's known for being the mascot. So I don't even know why it matters that he dresses up more. And what's really strange is his wife is not coming with him to the Halloween party. In fact, she just goes to bed early. That's really strange.
It's weird.
But-
Their relationship is so weird.
He does grab the mask to bring with him as a backup Halloween part of his costume, and he's trying to dress like a zombie. And when he gets to the party, he's driving up to the driveway and they're taking their cars, he just randomly puts the mask on while he's driving, by the way. And then this is when he becomes what I would say is the Duracell battery characters. Remember those things? I don't know. I know a lot of people don't remember these commercials, but back in the day with these weird Duracell characters that were like plastic mannequin people.
Yeah.
And they had these giant
I
teeth.
hated them.
Big
They were
heads.
scary.
Yeah. He becomes that. And it's so clear that the teeth that Jamie Kennedy is wearing are making him unable to speak.
Oh, yes.
So he is struggling. And so I would say that the rest of every time he's in the mask character, or Big Head as the comic books used to call him, whenever he becomes that character, he seems like he's overdubbed. Like he is 80 all of his lines. He's also doing a very bizarre voice that almost doesn't even sound like a character he does.
It doesn't sound like him
It doesn't
doing
sound like
that.
him.
No. But also, when I mentioned earlier that there's changes to the mask, he now has hair. But
Orange hair.
It's like plastic orange hair. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like looking like at least with Jim Carrey as the mask, there's something cute about him. I don't know what it was, but his, bald head and everything and his big teeth, he did it right. Everything looked right. But with this character, I feel very put off by looking at him.
Yeah, he's off-putting, and I would say that 90% of his dialogue and jokes don't land.
Smoking causes cancer.
And it's very odd to watch. I would say this, and I don't know if we've ever done this before on the show, because I don't think we've done many comedies, but comedies are my least favorite bad movies to watch, because when a comedy is bad, it can't get any worse, because if the jokes aren't landing, you have nothing. And if the idea of the jokes don't work, the movie's a complete fucking misfire, right?
Yeah.
And so automatically when I see a comedy we're gonna watch, I'm like, damn, we're in for trouble, because
Yeah, I don't like it either.
you need to have something to gravitate toward. I will say this about this movie, though. I didn't particularly hate the characters. I found like they were okay. Like they were passable.
There's only one that I liked. And that was Loki.
I mean, it's not that I hated Jamie Kennedy's character. I just think that they didn't do him like any justice. There's no background story. There's nothing really here that gels into a fully fleshed character. His wife is fine too. They're just not built up. There's nothing to them. They feel hollow. I think that's a big problem going in the movie. But
it's blank. It's very blank. And the girl, I don't think she has any charisma or any kind of like chemistry with him at all. There's nothing there with her. I don't know why they chose her.
Well, again, that comes down to needing more of them being together. She is virtually written out of this movie. A couple times in this movie, they find plot devices to get her out for big chunks of the movie. And I think that works against the film, because I feel like they're taking away that dynamic for making the movie itself work.
Well, because they have to make it.
Yeah, because it becomes about something else. And I would say that probably is the biggest problem. But we're going to get to that. Now, let's talk about when Jamie Kennedy becomes the Mask, right? So Jamie Kennedy becomes the big-headed Mask character. His first off, he's doing all the shtick. He's pulling out things that are like puns. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and bizarrely kind of almost sexually harasses a woman.
Okay, can we talk about this? So I'm very bothered by this scene, simply because I know that the Mask is, when Jim Carrey did it, he was very like, oh, hey, baby, type deal. But I don't recall this level where like he literally, Jamie Kennedy sees this woman standing across the room and his eyeballs bug out, like, ooh la la type deal. He says, hey, you better cover up there or you're gonna, what did he say, catch a cold or something like that?
You better cover up, young lady. You might catch a chest cold. What am I thinking?
So he bundles her up with bandages like a mummy, and then he spins her so like all the bandages come off, and then she's wearing a completely different outfit, almost like lingerie,
which is like sexualized, almost like a vampirilla outfit.
Yeah.
And she spins into Cal Penn. Now this turns out, I know what happened here. This is actually established in dialogue, which is really weird because it just comes out of nowhere. Earlier when you see Cal Penn, it's just an off-put line where he says that he goes, you should go talk to the boss. And he said, you should go talk to that girl. They work with a girl that he apparently really likes. Now,
you should go talk to Stacy.
Yeah, this is the girl.
Yeah.
So he spins her into some sexy outfit into Cal Penn, who Cal Penn catches her, and then she says, oh, him. She falls in love with him in the moment. And then he says, thank God. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's so odd.
So odd. Like,
that character never comes back.
No, she never comes back. But then, like, it's weird that Jamie Kennedy's Mask character would even do something like that, because he doesn't do anything like that the rest of the movie.
Yeah, which puts into question, and I would say everything that happens here puts into question, does the Mask, is he another character? Is he another person? And is Jamie Kennedy remembering everything he did as the Mask? Because that's questionable.
I forget, does Jim Carrey remember?
Well, that's the thing. Jim Carrey, the Mask is bringing out all these crazy things. It's not, because Jim Carrey actually, she doesn't like, in the original Mask, she's kind of into the fact that he's all over her and he's dancing and doing all this stuff, but that's not what she likes. And he's getting rapey in that movie as well. And she's kind of off put at one point, and he rips off the mask because he says, "I'm sorry, the other person that I was becoming is a jerk." And she's like, "I actually like you better as without the mask." So that's like a whole thing is like, he's not, it's like all these heightened, like carnal versions of him. So it's almost like he's becoming another character, which is where I'm questioning what everything that happens here is. Why was he Googling a coworker? And then he goes, okay, the party is so dull apparently that he goes into an entire musical number because the first one did it and the first one was successful and it made a song and people loved it and everybody was singing it and it's kind of like stuck with everybody. So they had to try it again, right? The problem is here, it's awful.
It's dreadful.
Dreadful.
I mean, to the point where like, I was like, oh my God, please make this stop. This is embarrassing.
Yeah,
when Jim Carrey did it, it was fun. It was like, okay, this is funny. This is cute. And he and Cameron Diaz were dancing together and stuff. And I thought that was cute.
Yeah. And what's cool is in the 90s trying to do the swing and the whole Cuban beat thing that he was going for there and trying to do something crazy and out of character. Here, we get nothing like 2005 says white rap.
Yeah, French City in the house. Yeah. What? This is the part where you dance. This is the part where you boogie. This is the part where you dance. Shake your booty. Shake your pants like this. Shake your pants. Shake your pants like this. Shake your pants. Ladies, let me hear you.
You're just too good to be true. Yeah, good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. I love you, baby. You feel like having a touch. I want to hold you so much. Yeah.
I know.
It's like, oh God, why would they think this was a good idea? And it's him like rapping, but then what else says 2005? He becomes Neil Diamond?
Out in the ways that I stare, no one else who can compare. The sight of you leaves me weak. There are no words left to speak. So if you feel like I feel, please let me know that it's real. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you.
What the fuck? Who do they think that was for?
It looked like, I don't know, he had this black plastic hair.
He was like Neil Diamond.
And then his like chest became hairy. I'm like, okay, but the mask, he can make himself into anything. So, okay, fine. But then he just kept changing the characters and he became like what looked like the singer of Color Me Bad in the 90s with the freaking blue suit with the pink shirt underneath and like they were all like, that 90s suit
it's
look.
the big baggy, yeah. Clothes. Yeah.
And he just kept changing his characters, but they kept doing different renditions of the same song in different like tones of music and different types of music, and it just didn't hit. It just didn't.
He even turns into a country singer and does a parody country version of Voice.
I love you, baby. Don't bring me down, I pray, oh pretty baby. Now that I found you, stay and let me love you, baby.
It's not like it's actually appreciating country. It's actually shitting on it. And what's really odd is he's also making everybody who's at the party turn into different outfits for different songs and do different dances with them. Now, nobody's like reacting to the fact that their clothes are magically changing.
Right. Now, did Jim Carrey, was he able to do that? Because I know that Loki can do that. He can make anything happen or change anything or whatever, but I don't recall Jim Carrey changing anything like that.
Does he not spin Cameron Diaz and put her in a different dress, or
does
he not do stuff like
I know
that?
she's
I
wearing
can't
like
remember.
A sparkly short dress.
She was wearing like a tight red thing. At
Yeah.
one point. There's also like a black dress with white. I don't remember if he actually does. He can physically change other people, but I'm not going to put it past him. Now, what's odd is, I think this is even more off-putting. After he does all this, of course, everybody at the party is like, yeah, this is the best party now. And everybody's clapping at the end of the song. That the song doesn't actually end. It just abruptly ends. It just comes to an end, and everybody's like, yes, best song ever. Now, this is where it makes Jim Carrey, I mean, not Jim Carrey, I wish, Jamie Kennedy, just all of a sudden go, okay, now I'm going to leave the party. And he zips all the way out, leaves his car, and zips all the way home, gets into bed where his wife is laying above the covers in what looks like a bikini. I said this, it looked like an orange bikini. It was just really strange, lingerie or whatever. As the mask, he has sex with her. And now I question, is that appropriate that he kind of...
I mean, it's kind of rapey.
It's kind of rapey that he... And we know that this is true because he doesn't really remember it very well, because the next day everybody's like, I can't believe you did all that. And he's kind of like, what did I... Oh, yeah, I did stuff.
He doesn't remember anything.
He doesn't seem like he understands what he has done, and he's not even second-guessing that I became another character last night. And what's even more nuts is that everybody's happy about it, and everybody says that they know it's him. There's no reason anybody should know it's him.
Right.
Because there's like a whole joke about showing his work ID, and when he shows it, it's still the mask.
Right.
So
how do they know it's him?
I don't think anybody should know it's him. It doesn't even.
But they
look
all
like him.
do.
They were saying that he used special effects.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the fuck
But,
that's
like,
talking about.
The strange part about this is, like, okay, he goes to this party. He knows he's driving to the party. He remembers putting the mask on. But he himself, as the character of Tim Avery, does not know what happened at the party. So wouldn't that give you... And then he wakes up the next morning with the mask in his hand.
Yeah,
so wouldn't
to the
that give
floor.
you, like, some kind of iota, like, oh, something really fucked up happened last night?
Yeah. I think it dropped to the floor and the dog took it.
Yeah, I guess the dog took it.
I don't
and he
know
just-
what happens there, but yeah, he doesn't think twice about it, like even sex-wise.
No.
Because and I know this is true because now his boss calls him just because he came to a party and made it fun. His boss now promotes him to another floor and in another position in the company. So he's like, I got a promotion, and his wife's like, I got better news. I'm pregnant.
Like, this is like the next day.
It's the next day, and he says, "How is that possible? When did we have sex last?" And I'm like, "Well, that's sad." But
Yeah.
also, it's like he doesn't remember having sex last night.
Right. He
But
obviously
also,
doesn't.
how could that be possible that I got you pregnant from last night?
Because he had sex with her as the mask.
That's what I'm saying.
He impregnated her with a mask baby.
And so what we're learning almost instantly is that the mask is what impregnated her.
Yeah.
Because it seems like his DNA is now the mask, and the baby is growing at rapid. They don't even talk about it. It just happens.
Nope, they're not even taking
The
it back
doctor's
by
just
this.
like laughing about it because she burps bubbles instead of throw up. And the mask, they show in the sonogram, the baby's like dancing, and he actually does the Cuban beat song from the first one.
Okay, this is where the movie gets out of control, ridiculous. From this minute on, they show that Jamie Kennedy's looking at the sonogram of the live recording of the baby in the womb, and he puts on a hat in the womb.
In the womb.
And has maracas.
Now, what I question is, how does the baby know anything about that kind of stuff in that
Exactly.
moment? Because later on, he learns everything through TV.
Yes, true. Now, is this Jamie Kennedy just going crazy and seeing this?
Well, that's
At
a joke
first,
in the movie,
I
too.
thought that he was just losing his mind, because I know that this movie is supposed to be playing on the childish side of things. Like, it's supposed to be childish and ridiculous. It's supposed to be.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too, but go ahead.
But the fact that at this moment in time, now, this woman's carrying this child. So if this child is a little bit rambunctious in the womb, I feel like she would know that something's up. You know, something's not right with the kid. It's weird.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's odd too, because I think we see lights in her belt, like on her belly.
Yeah.
There's movement. They know that the baby is instantly grown.
Mhm.
She has the baby very
Which
quickly.
seems like, I mean, literally within a couple of days. It's
Yeah.
really creepy.
And she's not thinking about this at all.
Nope.
Now, what's even more strange is that she has the baby, And now we just learned that they have kicked the dog out of the house into the backyard into a normal dog house. Now, first off, this is a huge house. You're telling me there's not another room.
Right.
That's strange.
Right.
It's
so
odd. It's
they're
odd.
just setting that up so the dog can be bitter.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a plot line here. Now the dog has stolen the mask out of jealousy from being kicked out and having the baby in the house and losing his status as his owner's best friend, Avery's best friend. So he buries the mask in the backyard in his doghouse while we find out that Loki's traveling from place to place searching for the mask and finding random people that don't have it. And so sooner or later he's going to catch up to them. And we already know the plot, right? And so what we start learning is that the baby is going to be heavily CGI'd.
It's so bad.
So this is wild animation. It's the uncanny valley is strong with this movie. This movie, it is nightmare level. It's disturbing to look at. It's like Baby Day Out and all that movie. Yeah.
That one was actually better CG than this thing. First of all, my whole face, I have wrinkles even more so now than before on my face because I was cringed the whole time. Like, if cringed is even a word. Like, my face was like scrunched up, like, eh. Like, I was like smelling a hot turd or something. Like, it was just... I couldn't look at the CG. It was so bad.
It is. It's like that Ally McBeal dancing baby. Right. It's just off-puttingly insane.
Terrible.
It's next level disturbing.
There's a scene where Jamie Kennedy, like this baby, okay, he starts doing like all this crazy stuff. Like this crazy weird stuff. But the best part about it is the mother never sees any of it happening. She just gets so excited that the baby is like, what, 6 months old and can say, 5 or can count.
She didn't
to 5.
Hear that. She doesn't hear that. That she's actually gone for that part of the movie. That's a whole thing.
In the beginning, she's with him and he's sitting in the crib and she's counting balloons with him. I don't know if you saw that part, but she's
did.
Like counting balloons.
That's when
with
the
him.
first time we really understand the CG, because he blows his own head up like a balloon, and the dog sees it.
Yeah, but she doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't, of course.
Honey, just a second ago, he was counting the balloons. He held up 5 fingers.
That's great, hon.
Which doesn't make sense. She should know something's wrong. But what we learn is that Tim is trying to pitch the cartoon. And he's trying to make a successful cartoon based around the mask. And also having the baby and being like, oh no, I can't. How am I going to do this? I'm going to be a career. So, of course, naturally, that's the time in the movie where the main character's wife has to disappear from the movie, going on a business trip, leaving the lead, who's just about to pitch his new cartoon that he's his dream job, of course, has to jeopardize that situation because there's no other person in these people's life. There are no mothers-in-law. There's nobody existing in this movie that they know them. They just have to leave the baby with this man because movie demands that this guy learns how to be a father, which I would say he never does. But
No,
that's okay.
never.
Because how could you be a father to a demon? Because the baby is a straight up demon who hates his guts. And the moment that the wife leaves, starts saying mama, speaking full, and then will refuse to say dad, tortures him. And he is, of course, because he's a terrible father, to do his work, to work on the cartoon, he puts the baby in front of a TV and we see him watch Tex Avery cartoons.
And that's where he learns to like do all the zany, silly stuff that he does. And throughout this whole entire 5 days that this woman is, on a work trip, this baby destroys this guy's life.
Destroys this guy's life and does Tex Avery cartoon joke. And now this is where I feel like controversial. I would feel like if I had seen this at 5 or 10, I probably would have enjoyed this movie. Because it is so zany, it is so crazy, it is so over the top, and it's kind of funny to watch a baby destroy this man. But as an adult watching this thing, the CG is intense, and it is very off-putting.
It's really bad.
To make it worse, the dog now wants revenge on this baby. because he hates him for stealing his family, and also kind of can see that the baby's trying to kill like the father.
I mean, he clearly is trying to kill Jamie Kennedy. I mean, he is. He's doing so much crazy shit, and then, you know, I feel like a lot of this, though, I thought they were gonna say was just in his head, like he was just going
But that's
crazy.
an actual plot with the baby.
Yeah, but I mean, some of it was ridiculous. He, you know, runs through the wall and he's singing in like that what do you call it? The WB Frog
it's
voice.
The vaudeville, yeah. So what happens here? He sees the episode of Looney Tunes with the singing frog, famously for the WB, the WB. You know that character.
That's very good.
He sees that, and that Looney Tunes episode. The funny joke in that is that he drives the man that has him insane because he doesn't do the singing and dancing when anybody else is around. So the guy actually ends up in an insane asylum. So he sees this, and naturally the baby goes, huh, I can have him committed by driving him crazy. So he actually does all of the vaudevillian singing and dancing that the frog does. So now imagine a CG baby dancing like... I think
with the leg kicks and
a lot of people might remember the exact joke is ripped off into Spaceballs with the top hat and the cane. They do the exact same thing from that Looney Tunes episode. So imagine a CGI baby doing that scene with the top hat and the cane,
which they took
dancing.
from Aliens or Alien. They took the whole chest burst scene.
Well, they took the chest burst, but they put it in the WB Frog guy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. They just took the two jokes. But imagine a baby doing this, and so it's insane. But the dog puts on the mask, and now the dog becomes the mask. And the dog's genius plan now, as the mask, is to kill the baby. So now the dog goes after the baby, while the baby's driving the husband insane. And now, I would say that this bit, I want to give the movie a little credit. I know that it's like one of those things where people are just like, no matter what, it sucks. But the movie actually sets up a huge, elaborate Rube Goldberg machine type joke where they're having an entire set piece where the baby has figured out the dog is trying to get him and is wearing the mask. And so they have a fight. And the baby sets up an entire trap that goes around the house, torturing the dog. And it is way better done than it has any right being. It's not that the jokes are landing. It's just, holy shit, they worked really hard on this. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they deserve a little credit. It is pretty decent, and it looks like it's using practical and CG at the same time. And I'm going to give them a little credit. They probably worked extremely hard on it. I want to give them credit for it. And I actually thought, you know what? This is well done. So, yeah, good on them. But the problem is, again, CG overload.
It's too much in your face.
Off-putting CGI.
I couldn't
overload.
take it. The baby. There's like one scene where he's driving to work and he asks the kid in the back seat, and he says, "Oh my God, I need an exorcist." And the baby actually spins his head around and then vomits green. And at this point in the movie is when, after going to every single person's house who has given birth on that very day this baby was born, he finally, and I'm talking about Loki, comes to the house, and he...
Yeah, just for a mention, that's where Alan Cumming is having a lot of fun. He gets to do like 50 characters while going to other people's houses. He keeps doing crazy characters, and he seems like he's having a ball.
Yes?
Good afternoon. May I come in? Yeah. What a lovely abode. Oh my, and such a lush carpet. You're exactly the kind of person the Vacuumizer 3000 was invented for.
Well, if I don't clean up, no one will.
That is what you need. Vacuumizer 3000. It has dual sleeve, durable air pads, triple blood roll, multi-Teflon coated filtering, and a beltless direct drive design that is so powerful it sucks the dirt off the dirt.
Is that safe?
Allow me to demonstrate.
Who knows if he really is in real life? But he did seem like he was having fun.
Yeah, he gets to wear all these different outfits. So he's literally got the list. He went to the I guess the Social Security office and got a list of all the babies that were born on this particular day, and he needs to find
Which is odd. How the hell did he do
how would
that?
he
Yeah, how would
know
he know that? What day it was
what
born?
day he was born?
I guess it was the day that was Odin said there was a baby born?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, okay. That's weird.
I guess Odin said it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So he
I
has
see.
a list of 1,000,000 babies, and so he has to go to every single person's house to test the baby to see if they're actually the mask. And he goes through a bunch of babies. He gets to wear a bunch of costumes to try and pretend, to try and like charm his way into the front door to test the baby. And then he finally comes to their house, Jamie Kennedy's house, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't the baby," which I found that really weird because he didn't even do anything.
Because he's been asking all the babies to do something. And because the joke is that the baby's trying not to do the stuff in front of anybody else but Jamie Kennedy to make him feel he's insane,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't do anything. So
Right.
he gives up. Loki just gives up.
And
There's no other
he's
test.
he just gives up and he goes back to his car. And at this moment, he sees Jamie Kennedy walking the baby to his car and putting him in the back seat. And it's at that moment where he says, "Oh my God, I need an exorcist." And the baby vomits green all over the car, like neon green.
They put like green screen overlap on the car. It looks so bad when he moves the car.
And so Alan Cummings like, "Oh shoot, that's my kid. I got him."
Yeah.
And he kidnaps the baby.
Yeah.
They're like, "Why?"
Yeah, it's so odd. Well, what happens actually is that he follows Jamie Kennedy and the baby to his work, and he gets fired.
Yes, because Jamie Kennedy shows up looking all disheveled like a freaking hot mess express.
I know why, too. I forgot. Yeah, he actually, Loki goes at him in the street. And he actually pulls out, like, an axe that pulls out guns.
It's so comical.
And
It's like everything Roger Rabbit.
And it's funny because it's like that joke in Gremlins 2 where all the people are passing by as the Gremlins are attacking the Futtermans.
Yes.
And the funny joke in the Gremlins 2 is that it's New York, so no one gives a shit.
No one cares.
But here, the people are looking, and actually one guy comes and tackles Loki to save them with the child. And the funny thing is that Jamie Kennedy's taking it okay and goes to work anyways.
Yeah, he shows up all like messed up looking.
Because he just met Loki.
He
And he
looks
says,
like a train
I just
wreck.
met Loki.
He looks like he's been through something. And so his boss, obviously, is it Stephen
Wright.
Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? You look like what does he say? A homeless person?
Which is funny because, and you show up with a baby, and he told them, I have a newborn baby.
But the baby's not newborn. He's
You know
at
what I'm
least a
saying.
couple months old. But he did say, "Yeah, my wife's out of town.
My
I need to
wife's
take
out of
care
town. I'm not going to be able to do this thing. They're going to have the meeting. And then he's mad at him for showing up with a baby.
Right.
And I'm like, he warned you guys that this was going to be a problem. Well, they fire him. And he's now just messed up. And when he gets home, that's when there's another battle between Loki, the child, and Jamie Kennedy. There's a whole battle between them where Loki just makes flamethrowers, a bomb, he shoots it on him. It just goes over the top. It's all puns, and the baby starts protecting them from blowing up.
Can I talk about my favorite scene in the movie now? Can I?
Is it skipping? Go ahead. It doesn't matter, I guess.
No, not really. Because
Is the wife home already?
No. So this is when he pretends. He walks in the house and he pretends that he's her. Remember?
Yeah.
And then he says, "Oh," he goes, "Oh my God, you're home. And he goes, "No, it's me." Yeah. And he's wearing the wig. He's wearing the wig like her.
That's the stuff that I was talking about. That's kind of fun.
He's having so much fun. And so
he also turns a nosy neighbor into a giant nose, and I couldn't stop staring at it. Like, is that a prosthetic? Because that looks pretty damn good.
It looked like a big mask.
Real nose.
Yeah, it did. It looked like a big mask. It was kind of.
I was like, that's actually not so bad. That's kind of neat looking.
But my favorite fucking part of this movie, and I can't get past it, is the fact that Alan Cumming as Loki, he could literally do anything or make anything or be anything. And the way he kidnaps this kid, he could easily just pick up the kid and walk out the front door. But that's not what he does. He decides that it's a good idea to make a comical stick of dynamite and shove it up his asshole.
He shoves it up his TNT up his ass, and I could not understand what was happening. I said, "Did he do this?"
I almost wanted you to pause it because I'm like, wait, that's not where that I think it is, right? It's not up his butthole.
I said, "Yes, it is."
It was literally up his butthole, hanging out of his butt, and it was lit. The fuse was lit, and he grabs the baby, and then the dynamite blows up and shoots him out of the top of the roof.
And I would say that I never even remember seeing it blow up. I just remember it shooting up into the air, and I was like, "Is it going to blow up now? Like, what was the point of the TNT?"
Oh my god, I cannot take it.
It is up his ass.
It's up his ass.
Oh, it's really, there's so much here with him fighting the baby, and it is just, oh my god, it's the next level bad looking.
Strange.
It is so weird. But the wife comes home. And
the real one,
the real wife, but Jamie Kennedy doesn't know that, so he literally beats the shit out of his wife. I thought this was funny.
He tries to give her whiplash and snap her neck and stuff, and I was like,
slamming her head into the ground. Of course, it doesn't look real. It just know he's slamming her into the floor.
But the fucking house is completely destroyed, and she's just like, where's my kid? Now, first of all, if she was actually Loki pretending to be her, she wouldn't be like, oh, where's my kid? What happened? You know? She wouldn't be acting like that. Plus, she had all her luggage. And so, at some point, Jamie Kennedy just lost his shit, started attacking her.
Because he thought he came back, and he goes, oh my god, it really is you. And you know how he knows? He grabs her boobs.
He knows it's his wife.
Yeah, that's how he knows it's his wife for real.
Oh my god.
And then... he starts trying to explain to her, look, you're gonna be mad, but Loki, the god of mischief, is real, and he has kidnapped our baby. And she's like, what? And so she goes to call the cops, and he's like, that's not gonna help. We have to figure out, he wants the mask. We have to find our dog, because our dog has the mask.
Well, I was going to motion to you at that point, because I was like, oh my god, okay, she's doing the right thing. She's calling the police, which would be a normal reaction to this.
But seeing the house with a hole through the ceiling, and also when she pulled up in the cab, they saw bursts of light above the house because it was him shooting out with TNT in his asshole. And so her and the cabbie are like, what the frig is going on? And you think that she would be like, what happened? Oh, you're not going to believe this. It shot through the ceiling, and she saw it. So she should be like, yeah, I think I did see that. But she's like, you're crazy. And he goes, no, our dog, Otis has the mask. And I know where Otis is. He's with the neighbor's dog because he's in love with the dog. He's trying to get with her. So he goes there, and we see that Otis has the mask, is having a picnic with the dog. A romantic picnic. Where she's dressed in lingerie and he is dressed in like Hugh Hefner.
I think she even has like a little tiara on her head. Yeah. She's like, they're like having a romantic
They have champagne.
dinner.
They have everything. and by the way, he sounds like a gremlin.
I'm laughing at this because it was fucking ridiculous, but it was funny.
It's kind of funny. It's so stupid, but I can see a 5-year-old loving this shit.
Yes.
I can see that somebody really young would have loved this. That's why I'm kind of shocked.
I know. And
so many people hate this thing.
They won't think of anything. Like the kids don't realize, oh my god, he just shoved TNT up his butthole.
No. It would have made me laugh. It would have made me laugh back in the day. Why would he do that? It would make me chuckle. Now I'm just questioning, why would he do that?
It's off-putting. I don't like it.
She sees Otis and she goes, that's not Otis. That's a green-faced dog of some sort, some kind of monster. And he's like, no, it's Otis, my best friend. And he's like, Otis, look, I'm sorry I gave you, I didn't give you enough time, and I'm sorry to cut you up because of the baby, but the baby is going to be your best friend. And that's how it should be. And I'm like, okay, this moment isn't earned. No. But Otis is able to rip the mask off and give the mask back.
Yeah, but Jamie Kennedy's acting in this scene is so he had it was, you know what it was? I can liken it to Mark Wahlberg's in The Crappening. What? No.
Oh yeah.
That whole thing, that is exactly how he did the speech in that same voice with just the delivery was so freaking bad. I was like, please, can we just shut this off? I can't take no more.
This is one of those movies that shows you how important a film is to have a celebrity, somebody in the lead who gets it and brings something to it.
Yeah.
Like people don't know why that's so important because a lot of people say bad acting is on the director. It is. But another actor can sometimes elevate the material. And I
Yeah.
think that's what Jim Carrey did with the original Mask. It's Jim Carrey he knows exactly how to do the jokes, when to put the jokes in, when to make it make sense, and when to be lighthearted.
Has so much charisma.
Exactly. He's able to do all that, and he knows. And that's what's funny and shows you that Jamie Kennedy, he's not that good at it. He can do characters, but the problem is that he only relies on making fun of those people and doing imitations. He can't bring anything to it. Some comedians can bring more to it and make that shit funny. None of that's coming here. And to be honest with you, Jamie Kennedy isn't allowed to do any of that here. He's so the straight man that it's so odd because he's not, he doesn't have charisma. He doesn't have that. He doesn't capture the screen. He's the best friend. He's the dork. That's why he works in Scream so well.
Yes, he does work in Scream because he is that person.
They knew exactly how to write him and give him material.
Yeah, for sure. But in this movie, I don't feel like any of the real people had charisma at all. I mean, except for Alan Cumming. I thought he was bringing it.
Yes.
He had a great time, and you could tell. And he was just, hey, I'm earning a paycheck for getting to wear these fabulous costumes. And
exactly.
And my hair's all like crazy, and I get to act like a lunatic. And he was earning a paycheck for that. He didn't care. But when you're in that role and you're set up for that role, it's different than when you're, Joe Schmo husband, father guy, and you have to act a certain way. And Jamie Kennedy just doesn't come off like that.
Yeah. Yes. And it's so apparent in this scene, like you bring it up. But what's even worse is that he goes to give Loki the mask. And of course, Loki at this time, while this is all happening, before he can bring him the mask, Loki is bonding with the child. And they are having more cartoony CGI. They're, in fact, the most creepy thing that you can do is play Twister with a baby.
Wait, you thought that was creepy? What?
Who thought that was a good idea?
Oh my god. I got nothing.
I mean, that is what. That's a sex game. That's more of a kinky type game that a lot of people use kinky. I
do know that
getting
adults,
bodies on top of each other.
Yeah, they'll play like drunken Twister and stuff. Back when I was a kid, I would play it with my friends when I was 11 years old.
Yeah,
I would play
but when you
it
get
with
boys
my friends.
involved and girls,
Never.
it's a little weird.
No, it was always just us girls. We always played together at our slumber parties and stuff like that. It was never like that. But later on, it turned into something for adults that, became fun.
Yeah, but would you think a grown man and a baby should be playing it together?
No, I think that, but the whole scene was so goofy anyway. It just didn't matter.
It's odd. It's just off-puttingly
They're
odd.
just all twisted up like pretzels.
Yeah.
And they're, because they can take their ears, they can stretch their ears, they can stretch their noses, and they can stretch their necks and all that stuff. It was just stupid. It's like, we know that you're going to show the scene of them twisted up like a pretzel in a million different directions, and then they're going to have to get out of it somehow.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was just so set up to be dumb.
Yeah. Well, the only reason this is set up is because Loki's having a good time with the kid. And now Loki doesn't want to give the kid up either. So he betrays them by grabbing the mask and the child and said he's going to have both. Luckily, Otis runs up and bites Loki's crotch, making him drop the mask, making Jamie Kennedy become the mask again, and now we have a mask off.
And I'll say it again, I do not like Jamie Kennedy in the way he looks as the mask. It's creepy.
It's odd. And we get a good 10 to 20 minutes of them doing different mask fights. We have a boxing match. We have all this stuff. Until it finally comes down to let the child pick who he wants to be with.
Oh, and here we come again with another speech from Jamie Kennedy
rips off the mask and realizes, I have to be your father. Yes. I'm your father. And you think that there's no connection between him and the baby because the baby is literally trying to commit him and have him killed.
Yeah, and I thought at that moment where Alan Cumming's standing on one side and Jamie Kennedy's on the other side and the wife is in between, I was like, I bet you he goes to the mom.
Yeah, which would have made more sense.
It would have made more sense, but I mean, because Jamie Kennedy was not thrilled to be a father. I mean, he even said he's like this kid's sucking the life out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, he tells his friend that. He says the kid's sucking the life out of him, and he refers to him as this kid instead of like my baby, and
Which is what I think makes the baby want to kill him.
Yeah.
I think the baby, which is weird because he understands everything when he hears it. But
he does.
It's odd, but he does choose his father, which makes Loki go nuts. And he says he just wanted a best friend. And you think that they would have said, we could still be friends with you.
Yeah.
Like you guys get along. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But he tries to kill them. And I don't understand this scene, but somehow Jamie Kennedy's able to catch a comic hammer that he slams down on them. He's able to hold it up.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any powers at this point because the mask is off his face.
Yes.
So when the hammer comes down and is about to crush the whole entire family, which Loki had just said he wanted to keep the baby.
And now
he
he's
was
like,
about
screw it,
to
I'll kill you
kill
all.
the freaking baby.
Yeah.
But Jamie Kennedy somehow has superhuman strength. But my favorite thing about this scene is that the woman is holding the baby, the wife, and she has every opportunity to get out of the realm of danger. And she sits there and squats down underneath the hammer and doesn't move.
I'll do one better for you.
As he's holding the hammer.
I'll do one better for you. The mother is in jeopardy, and the son, who can do anything he wants, doesn't do anything.
That's true.
All of a sudden, his powers just disappear to the point where I was going to ask you, did something happen where they sapped his powers? Is he a normal baby now?
No.
It doesn't seem like that's true. Although I feel like somewhere in the movie it was supposed to have happened. Because even the ending, we'll get to that, but I would say that there's something missing here. Like, it does feel like the baby suddenly has no powers to fight Loki.
Yeah.
But
it's weird. Nothing happens with the kid from that moment on.
Right at that moment, Odin is able to come in, and he saps all of Loki's power because he wasn't able to bring the mask to him in time. And so he says he's going to banish him to nothingness. And then that's when Jamie Kennedy, and I don't hate this, he says to him, whoa, that's your son. Like, at the end of the day, if you banish him, he's still going to be your son. You did this to your son. Like, you guys gotta work past your crap and make it make sense. He's like, look how old you guys are. You're 800 and you're 400 or whatever. He's like, at this point, you guys should have learned to knock off this crap. And he's like, look, here's the mask. We don't want it. You can have it back. All you had to do is ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to do all this. They basically leave smiling because they're going to be father and son, and they go back to Asgard.
That's it.
And then it just means that, and now, of course, Jamie Kennedy has magically got his job back because he has pitched to them a cartoon that is about a dog and a son, a baby, fighting over the affection of their father. And Stephen Wright's like, this is genius. Where did you come up with this? Maybe because he has a dog and a son, you idiots?
Yeah. It was so...
Where did he come up with this?
I was like, this is the worst. I was like, oh my God. So he got his job back after failing at the pitch meeting.
And he getting fired.
Yeah. But you failed. So at what point did you have an opportunity to pitch something else to them?
Exactly.
You were already fired. And if they fired you, why didn't you just say, go fuck yourself and find another job or another company to do your, to do your cartoon? Like, I would be like, fuck you, you fired me. I'm not going to get you rich on this. Yeah. It was just so stupid.
And what's odd is everybody's happy. They're all happy. The house is fixed. Everything's magically okay. And then we get a shot of the baby having his face, like his eyebrow raise. And I said, what? Okay, because they suggest that the wife is now pregnant again. And they say, are you okay with that? Another baby, you're going to have a brother or a sister. And then they scroll to the baby's face and he makes an eyebrow. Now, I felt like this was a creepy moment that suggests that he had done something to them.
Yes. Okay. So just to clarify this, the baby's sitting on the mother's lap and they're just sitting on the couch, and she points down to her belly and he's like, oh, you're pregnant again? and the baby winks at us, the audience.
It wasn't even a wink. It was an eyebrow raise.
It was an eyebrow raise, but then he winks at the end. He does, 100%.
But what is that suggesting?
Yeah, it was creepy.
Like I'm going to do something, or I did something to them.
Or did he have sex with the wife again when he was the mask? And
With a baby?
No, the husband, the fucking husband. God damn it! And so
that didn't happen, and we're not even. That's why I was wondering why the baby did that face. Like he had done something to them.
Yeah, it was a creepy
And I was
moment
like,
that I didn't
ugh.
understand. I'm like, why are you winking at us?
And
like,
also made me believe that he didn't have powers anymore. And maybe the mother didn't know, because I was like, did he lose his powers at some point? Because he disappeared.
No,
and
he
with this
didn't.
wink, or this knowing look to us, and this wink that you're saying, it would made me believe that, oh, I never lost my powers. But then I was like, did something get cut out of this movie where they said that he did? Like, what does this mean?
no, he never lost his powers.
So then what does that mean?
I don't know. Are they winking at us because they're saying that there's going to be another baby with powers like this? But how? Because Jamie Kennedy didn't have sex with her as the mask.
That's like, did he magically impregnate her to have a brother or a sister?
How?
With
and
his
that's
powers?
disgusting.
I don't know either, but I don't know what that look is.
I don't either, and it's very upsetting to me. But I'm going to show you. We're going to rewind it, and I'll show you. There's.
I don't need it. I don't need to see it ever again.
Yeah.
I don't need to see it.
It's awful.
It just made me question what I had seen, and then also because the movie can't get enough, then the film is cut in half by the dog who still somehow has the Loki mask,
right. So,
which isn't true.
No.
Unless they're saying that the dog didn't give him the real mask.
What did he give him? If he gave him the one from the museum, how did the number one?
I don't
how
know.
Did the dog get
I don't
that
know what's
one?
going on in the film.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm baffled, but you know what? I don't ever need to see this movie ever again, so I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, look. So on the show, we asked the question, is this the worst movie ever made? I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't think so. And I do think, while I understand it's hardcore, like, hate and it's bad reviews, I think that it might be a little extreme.
I mean, okay. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's extreme.
You think it deserves its 2-star rating?
I think it does.
Really?
Yeah.
I
There's nothing to love about these characters. It's like you're supposed to be rooting for someone. I'm rooting for Loki. I'm not gonna lie. He's the only character in the movie that I even remotely enjoyed at all. Jamie Kennedy has the charisma of a frozen tater tot.
Agreed.
He's not. I don't understand how he ever made any movie at all. Period. He's just not good at all. And the wife was worse when she was in the movie. She wasn't in the movie because she was asleep. There's nothing for her to do. I mean, even the nosy neighbor, nothing. They never brought the people back in the beginning. Nothing. It's just nothing.
What people?
Exactly. Remember the friends that they had with the 5 kids that could have been helping babysit, but they never did?
Oh, yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
those
forgot about
people.
those people. I look, here's what I'm thinking. What was this movie trying to aim to make? A kid's film, right?
I mean, yeah, it is.
And so at the end of the day, is it successful in being a stupid kids movie?
Yeah.
Kind of.
It is.
Do I think it should be better? Do I always think that movies should always treat people and kids smarter than they are, like Pixar and all these other companies do? Yes. I do say that's a downfall of a lot of movies like this. They should be smarter, and they shouldn't treat their audiences like they're stupid. What this movie does.
It does, yeah.
And I do think the jokes completely miss, and I do think it was miscast. There's problems, without a doubt. But is it the worst kids movie I've ever sat through? I don't think so.
No, it's not.
I think I've seen things that are really insultingly stupid.
Yeah. So what would you give it?
I think that I can't give it a 2. I understand why someone would. It is stupid. It is a mess. The CG is nightmare level. I mean, this shit is cringe-inducing, no doubt. But I feel like I'm going 3 or 4.
Okay.
I might be going 3, but I feel like it's a higher 3. That's why I kind of wanted to go to a 4. I just don't think it's the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. Especially when you look at our list of movies we've been doing. We had just watched three Toxic Avenger movies back to back, and Sergeant Kabuki Man, which go out of their way to be disgusting and insulting. And two of them are the laziest damn things I've ever seen in my life. So, in comparison, at least this movie tried.
It tried. I'm gonna say that it's a 3-level movie.
Okay. You think it deserves its 2-star rating?
I think it does.
Really?
Yeah.
With that being said, we've been ranking all the movies we've been seeing to a certain point. We've trying to rank, and we're doing what is the worst movie ever made? Because that's the second question. If it's not the worst movie, what is? So right now, the worst movies we have done on the show, and I think you agree with me, these are both worse than this movie. And that would be number 1, The Toxic Avenger Part 3. And number 2, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Both sequels. Now, do you think this one deserves to be up in the top 5 of our list?
I think that it's definitely better than those two movies for sure.
Absolutely.
It's also better than Action USA. I can't believe I said that, but yeah, I just said it.
You mean Invasion USA?
Or whatever the hell.
So you think that's better? So that was my point. I would say that maybe this one falls between 8 and 9, where Invasion USA and Silent Night.
Yeah.
This one's between those two,
yeah.
or is this? Or you're saying Invasion USA is definitely worse?
No.
I think it might be better.
I think Invasion USA is actually better.
I do.
Yeah,
agree with you on
Invasion USA is actually better. It's also better than Action USA. I can't believe I said that.
So is this worse or better than The Christmas Tree?
I found The Christmas Tree to be more entertaining than this.
Okay, so there you go. I kind of agree with you. That's terrible.
I know.
It is a terrible movie.
I know.
I do agree with you. I think I'd watch A Christmas Tree.
I would watch it again because it's mesmerizingly awful. And there's just so much about it that I can't look away from. But this movie, I just wanted it to end. So yeah, I'm saying The Christmas Tree is better than this.
Okay, so Sergeant Kabuki Man.
I would watch Sergeant Kabuki Man again before this.
And Toxic Avenger Part 4?
I hated it. I'm going to watch this above that again.
I think so. I think that this is now our number 5.
Okay. All right.
I do
like
understand where movies rating and rankings, if I butcher that again, sorry, reviews on Instagram who suggested this movie. I completely understand why he's saying this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I mean, it clearly is.
And
100%.
Also, I've talked to him previously many times about how we watch the worst of the worst. And so if he had watched our top 5, I think that he would agree that is now not the worst movie he's ever seen.
I mean, yeah. Hey, you know what? Challenge.
Yeah.
Challenge,
I know.
sir.
Throw it
go
down.
ahead and watch that shit.
Yeah.
And then come back and talk to us.
Yeah. Do us a favor and watch The Toxic Avenger 4 and tell me, is this movie really that much worse?
Oh my God. God help us all.
All right.
All right. Well, that brings us to our segment.
Yes.
Of why we can't have nice things. And that's where I show you the two extremes of online reviews and how the internet destroys the movie rating system. So I'm going to give you a 1-star review and 1 10-star review of Son of the Mask. And I will start at the 10-star review today. This is titled A Very Entertaining Movie. Son of the Mask movie is a very entertaining and funny movie. I laughed from all my heart when I rent the DVD. Honestly, even with the absence of Jim Carrey, the movie was successful because here in this IMDb, you will find a lot of people who loved it. Good acting and suitable for all ages. Good for adults and will cheer them up. Excellent for children and very amusing. This film is extremely underrated. Glad I saw this movie. At least deserves a 7 out of 10 for the comedy, good acting, and direction. Okay, well, if it deserves a 7 out of 10,
Why are you going?
why are you giving it a 10?
It's again, that's the problem here. So they feel like they have to pad it by going to the extreme, and the same thing with the ones. They're doing the same thing.
I mean, yeah. Anyways, all right. So here's our 1-star review, and this is titled "Terrible, Awful, Extremely Bad, Horrible, etc., etc." Mr. Kennedy should stop experimenting. That's making a joke on his show.
Oh God!
Should stop experimenting with bad movie scripts. It's like, what was he thinking? This is a movie that should not have passed the "Hey, I've got an idea, let's make a sequel" stage of Inception. If there was a 0 rating, I'd give it, but I guess I'll settle for a generous 1. It seems these days that if there is a buck to be made, movie execs will dig up an old hit and run it by a set of writers and see what turns up. Hey, I said hit and run kind of describes how I felt when this movie ended. How this piece of trash ever saw the light of day is beyond me. It is filled with unpleasant humor, strange animation, and jokes that don't quite take you anywhere besides a state of confusion. If you are being dragged to this movie and someone is paying for you, fine, but it's still going to be more painful than a brick in the forehead. Damn. However, if you're planning on paying your own hard-earned money, search out a better alternative. 1 out of 10.
I get both sides of the argument here. I think that, of course, 7 is so high, or a 10 that the guy ended up going with, and a 1 or 2. It's like the extremes. I get it. Both people make a lot of sense. I can see someone enjoying the jokes here. I can see that, especially a young person.
If you're a child,
Even
you
a 10,
will just be like,
12-year-old, this gotta be fun.
yeah, like, oh, look, you're spinning around and you're turning into things. Okay. And then seeing the dog, turn into the mask okay. That's good for kids. Kids love that. But when you're, a grown-up person watching this movie for the first time, this is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's just downright embarrassing.
I mean, that's the problem, right? The adult in everybody who is being forced to watch this with their kids being completely mad. I can see that. Those are the ones that go unrated. And that's why there's so many of them. It's so funny, by the way, that it's 60,000 people rating it on IMDb, and that's exactly its budget. I mean, how much it made, gross, 60 million it made back. It's so funny. That's like 60, that's how many people had to rate it. They all the people who saw this in the theater with their kids were fucking angry. And I get it, because sometimes you're shocked when you see these parents go with kids. I know a lot of guys who come home, I had to go see this movie with my kids, and I hated it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, look, it wasn't really for you. It was for kids. But at the end of the day, I do understand it. They should have something to enjoy as well. And I think there's a lot of movies out there who are trying for both. Like we have Shrek and stuff, totally for adults.
Yeah.
Pixar, totally for adults. It's and Miyazaki, totally for everybody. Like all these movies are for everybody. Mm-hmm. Sure. Then you get movies like this, and you're like, I can see why the adult would be mad to go and say this is the worst movie they've ever seen. But a 10-year-old growing up with it, probably endearing. And that guy who probably wrote the review was probably 10 in 2005 and wrote that review not so long ago. You know what I mean? Saying, now that I'm growing up, I'm going to defend the movie I grew up with. I mean, shit, people, they defend Phantom Menace.
There are people out there that love that movie.
And that's, okay.
That's
they
fine.
grew up with it. It was their first Star Wars. I get it. Same thing goes here. So I kind of get both sides of it. I get it. The person who saw this, was forced to see this, was pissed, is the 1-star review. Mm-hmm. And then the kid growing up going, I'll defend this movie because I had a good time as a kid. Gonna get it. We defend shit movies as kids too.
Mm-hmm. We do.
So
we do.
Yeah.
I won't lie, and I'll be the first to say that, those movies that we thought were amazing and great as kids, like when we watched like stupid crap like Mac and Me.
We never liked that. That was always a nightmare.
Just as an example, like stupid crap.
I grew up with like Ray Harryhausen art. And I can see that if I showed a kid today, they'd be like, wow, this looks terrible. Mm-hmm. But when we were kids, that was the coolest damn thing ever. And there's people who grew up with thinking that's the best art ever. No CG, clay animation. It looks so good. But when we grow up now, you kind of look back on it and you go, oh, man, you could see it there on the screen, you could see all the stuff, you know how they did it, and it's awkward. But it's also that idea of like putting yourself in that scenario. I think the big problem with this movie in particular is that the special effects are so bad because in 90s we had Jurassic Park. So when everything that comes after it looks bad, you're like so mad about it. Like we just had Jurassic Park this 10 years ago.
But we shouldn't have that 10 years
10
later.
prior.
We should not have had this problem. Like we should be progressing at this level. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like when these actors sign up, like their first question should be like, what's the budget of the movie? Because honestly, you know, you have, oh, and also might I say that wasn't Titanic in 1997? Didn't that come out in 97? So, like, James Cameron had already done some amazing shit at that point. And we're talking 2005, so that's years later.
Oh, yeah, I said
So
Jurassic Park's 94.
Yeah, so there should be improved special effects.
Yes, but
At
when it
this
comes to
point-
human special effects, we're still not even there in 2024. We're still getting to CGI effects of humans that are starting to get that good. It's taken this damn long. So
Yeah.
trying to push those special effects off humans, a dancing baby in 2005 is pushing the border, and I can't expect much. What I didn't talk about also was there's actually good animation in this movie. They actually cut to animation jokes a lot, and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty decent. So it's all over the place, but
it is.
it's unfortunate, but I can understand why someone would hate it, you know. So whatever. We
Yeah.
did it. We watched it. We got through it. And I love the suggestions. I want more and more. You know, I do.
Yes. So we would like to say thank you to Movie Rating and Ranking for this suggestion of Son of the Mask. It was something, and we got through it. And there were some parts where we were like, all right, that's not that bad. But then
I get it.
It
Yeah.
then became bad. So,
But I would love to hear more for anybody out there.
Yeah.
If you can think of a movie that we haven't seen, please send it to us. Torture us. We find it funny, and you can laugh at us for the torture.
yes.
So I love that, and I can't wait to do more of ones that are suggested, and especially his other one to us. One of them is baffling. I think I want to watch it on my own without the show, but the other one is going to be a painful one. So we'll do that, and I'm looking forward to it one day. But yeah, thank you as always, everybody, for listening and liking the show or contacting us. We're on social media at Just As Another Movie Night on Instagram, and Joe is at the Crafty Misfit making some fun things over on Instagram. Go check it out, and hit us up with any suggestions, and hit us up with why you think this is worse than we're giving it. Tell us. I love to hear it. So
well, thanks for the plug, babe.
yeah,
You plugged me.
I did. Oh,
That sounded really bad. And no, this is not a porn show.
let's end on plugging. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Yes, Ma and her career are just... Did you say Ma?
Mama.
Oh my God, you said Mama. Well, can you say Dad or Dada?
Mommy.
That's great. You're doing great. But come on, say Dada.